Creepypastas were a big part of my life when I was in middle school. For the few that don't know, a creepypasta is basically a horror story circulated around the internet. There's more to it than that, but that's basically the gist of it. Anyway, when I got into creepypastas again, I've noticed how they aim to be darker and more realistic than before. Let me explain. Back in the 2010s, the most popular creepypastas were things like Jeff the Killer, Smile Dog, Slenderman, etc. It's stark contrast to the kind of creepypastas that are popular now. The way they're written now also feels different. The majority of creepypastas back then were short little stories with interesting setups, more like folklores than actual narratives. Now the majority of creepypastas I've seen are about the length of short stories, and are written that way too. Not that I'm complaining, I'm glad that creepypastas are evolving as a written medium, but it does feel different. Personally, I attribute this change to the popularity of Reddit, specifically r/let's-not-meet and r/no-sleep, because the immersion most stories those subreddits had made them really effective in evoking fear, regardless if they were real or not. So it would make sense why creepypastas would try and imitate their style. In doing so, there has been an increase in the use of the horror trope I like to call the town has a secret. A trope that's already established in horror media, check Gravity Falls, It, and Stranger Things, and was a trend in creepypastas for a while. Check Baraska, Spire in the Woods, and I'm a Search and Rescue Officer as the more popular examples. But then came a story that turned that trope completely on its head, along with psychological horror and even crime noir. Tales from the Gas Station and Finding Vanessa. They're stories that are self-aware while still poking fun at the horror genre while also still being a solid The Town as a Secret story. It has great characters, writing, a compelling overarching plot, and a genuinely good setting that makes it feel unique and different. Tales from the Gas Station is a postmodern narrative about a man named Jack who works at a really shitty gas station where a lot of weird things happen. But he couldn't give less of a shit. The story was written in a blog-style format and was originally written on r/no-sleep before turning into an actual blog and then to a book. One of the elements that makes Tales great is its subversion of expectation, which is what makes its story, characters, and humor work so well. Jack is the perfect kind of protagonist for this story. He's a passive voice that doesn't seek to be involved in any situation, but not because he's just some contrarian for the sake of ironic self-awareness. Okay, maybe he is a little bit in the first arc. It makes sense for his character because he doesn't want any trouble, and he has a degenerative brain disorder that's gonna kill him soon, so it's hard for him to really give a shit about anything, and also it makes him see hallucinations, so half the time when he sees something weird, he's not sure if it's real and neither does the audience. And as juvenile as it sounds, it is kind of funny to see Jack be hit with a weird situation and have him go like, yada yada does it. It also helps that most of the things that happen to Jack, like all the weird things, are legitimately interesting and usually forward the plot in some way. He also has a wonderful cast of characters that are all funny and full of personality. The story has this sort of stream of consciousness style of writing, which makes sense because it's supposed to be a blog. The blog itself is a tool that the author uses to really immerse the reader into the story and the world to its fullest potential. He uses it to interact with fans, plant Easter eggs that contribute to lore, or just as a plot device in the story. Or to troll his audience. Finding Vanessa is a side story that's canonical to Tales from the Gas Station. It's about a private investigator named Eric Riggin trying to find his missing niece, Vanessa, but it leads to him unraveling secrets about the town. Finding Vanessa is more of a detective crime thriller rather than a horror comedy adventure, but it does have its share of supernatural and comedic elements. The structure and writing of this series is really different from Tales from the Gas Station, which I like because it really highlights the fact that Eric and Jack are two very different protagonists. Like, they're not similar at all. A part of me does sort of think that the immersion in this story is a bit lesser than Tales, though. Like, it's still an absorbing read, don't get me wrong, and they also use the whole using different mediums thing to tell your story, so there's that. And to be fair though, I don't think this story was trying to be the same as Tales, and it puts more emphasis on story. It's a way tighter plot with more detail. If you want a funny, immersive horror adventure story filled with Lovecraftian monsters, demons, and just a bunch of weird shit, read Tales from the Gas Station, and if you like what you see, purchase volumes 1 and 2, which act as expansions to the original story. And of course, follow Jack Townsend on Facebook where he posts updates on the series. Editor's note, I forgot to mention that Tales also has an official Instagram that you could follow, and the Pain Gravy Discord filled with people that are fans of Tales and just creepypastas in general. They're really cool and nice people, and they also make amazing art. Some of it you'll be seeing soon. And if that doesn't interest you, but you like a more structured and linear story filled with action and suspense, then skim over the first arc of Tales from the Gas Station and then read Finding Vanessa, because you kinda need the context from the Dark God arc to get everything out of that story. Those are my more general thoughts out of the way. Let's talk about specific details. The writing in the series is great. All The Town Has a Secret creepypastas usually have their town have a couple weird quirks about them to sort of justify why people call it weird. For example, Baraska has the skinned men, I'm a search and rescue officer has the staircase in the woods, and Tales from the Gas Station has things like gnomes or the bathroom cowboy. Now in a bad story, these elements would be mentioned once and then never again. In a good story like this, these things would usually be used as setup or plot progression or to set up some kind of joke. The trenchcoat man, the half a pig, and even the bathroom cowboy, sorta, all had great payoffs. Tales also has a wonderful cast of characters that all work individually, but together have the same chemistry as nitroglycerin. Each arc has a unique combination of core cast members. There's Jack, who is great, and he's always a constant. There's Jerry, who is the purest definition of chaotic neutral.
It's hungry. It needs to feed it, and you must open the door.
Why would I do that?
Because you fools are standing inside its mouth. Now, open the door before it swallows you whole.
Jerry walked up to me and screamed.
Hey Gramps, we're not interested, go away.
The man clenched his jaw at Jerry.
This fool does not understand. He does not know what is at stake. His insolence will bring about the... What? Wait, what the fuck? Is he really? Why is he taking off his pants?
I looked over at Jerry and sure enough, he was unzipping. Dude! What are you doing?
Well, I learned this in technique in survival class called bravehearting. Gotta show the wild animal who's boss.
He pressed his bare ass against the glass and yelled over his shoulder.
The fuck are you gonna do about it, huh?
There's Benjamin, my personal favorite. He's like this trigger-happy old man who likes to go after monsters and believes in all these conspiracy theories. Probably posts on 4chan, you know, if he was alive. Please don't be dead. By the way, does Sagoth has risen mean anything to you?
Sagoth? Yeah, Sagoth is an ancient evil, shape-shifting demon that leaves his victims stripped off all of their skin. If he's anywhere near the gas station, you boys need to hunt him down and pray, because that son of a bitch can look like anyone, and he'll take whatever form you're most likely to trust. He's an agony parasite, and you understand, that means he feeds off of pain.
Oh damn! That must be what beat up Spencer. It's a good thing we found Donald Glover when we did. What followed was an agonizingly long pause. Hello? Did I lose you?
Who the hell is Donald Glover?
You know, the critically acclaimed actor and musician? You might know him by his rapper pseudonym, Childish Gambino. He's a rapper, he raps.
Yeah, and I bet he's a great kisser too. Jack, did he somehow become dumber since the last time I saw you?
What do you mean?
Motherfucker, I just googled him. Donald Glover is at home with his family in Atlanta right now. You're in the presence of a shape-shifting demon.
Okay, or maybe the one in Atlanta is the shapeshifter and the real one is in the gas station. There's Tony, who was a pretty good straight man at the beginning of the series, but was probably the least interesting character, honestly.
Get rid of him or he's gonna end up like you!
Yo,
Hi.
what are you guys doing?
We're gonna go touch butts!
Wait, does that mean you're going to go touch each other's butts? Or like you're gonna go into the woods to find some butts to touch? Or like were you planning on touching your butts together?
Yes.
Well, count me in. That sounds right up my alley. Y'all got room for one more?
Shut the hell up, Jerry.
There's Rosa. She's this adorable gas station employee who is probably the only one who hasn't committed a crime among them.
Y'all, sign this card I made for Mel.
You made Mel a card?
Aw, that's so sweet. Hey Mel, saw you got stabbed in the heart. Oh look, he drew a picture of it and everything.
And Deputy O'Brien. She's basically the straight woman after Tony disappears, but I think she's a bit more compelling, honestly.
He got away.
Jerry shattered a glass beer bottle against the wall and pointed the jagged fragment at her, yelling.
Nice try, demon.
She glared at him and said,
If you come near me with that thing, you better be ready to use it because either I'm going down or you are.
he's right.
What?
O'Brien was alone out there with Sagoth for how long? We have no idea if you really you anymore.
Jack, I think you're confused.
Rosa raised her hand and said,
Why don't we just ask her something that only the real O'Brien would know?
Good idea. Is Jack circumcised?
How the hell would I know that?
Jerry looked at me, then back at her, then back at me.
Oh, were you two not... Oh, I'm sorry. I think I totally misread the whole situation.
Remind me to kick your ass later.
All the characters work so well that in How the Hell Did We Get Here, it's legitimately depressing to see Jack all by himself. Tails also nails what it feels like to work in customer service. Now I know that sounds underwhelming to some people, but as someone who has worked in that field, it is so cathartic, and it just makes the characters so much more relatable. Having to deal with weird or rude customers, those boring nights where you have nothing to do so you and your coworkers just fuck around, it all feels natural in the world that Tails set up. Finding Vanessa also has its funny moments too, and Eric is a really likable character. The problem with the story is that we don't really know much about Vanessa, but I suppose the story is more about Eric anyway. The comedy this time is still all about subversion of expectation, but it's much more focused on the reactions of the characters this time rather than just how bizarre the situation is.
What is that fucking thing?
What?
Do you see that?
What is it, a giant spider?
Yes, what the fuck?
No.
What do you mean, no?
Marlboro, can you come out here for a second?
Who are you talking to?
It's the old pain meds they gave me. I had to stop taking them because they were making me see spiders.
What?
Alright, weirdest side effect ever, but apparently it's a thing. Brand-specific hallucinations. Spiders everywhere, on my clothes, in the shower, in my toothpaste. I decided that the pain wasn't as bad as spiders in my cereal.
Wait, you drugged me?
I didn't.
You rang?
Did you give this guy my old pain meds?
Oh, most definitely. I grabbed like 4 and put them in his water bottle.
Why would you do that?
I'm just trying to help.
Finding Vanessa also just doesn't really have a strong supporting cast. I mean, excluding everyone from Tails, we have Jamie, who's Eric's nephew and Vanessa's brother. We have Roger, who is a puppet that seems to know everything about the town. And that's about it. Everyone else is either not important or just doesn't stick around long enough. This is why I think you need to read a little bit of Tales, at least the first arc, in order to get everything out of Finding Vanessa. Because without that context, Eric basically has to carry the whole story on his own. He does a fine job of it, and he is a good character. It's just not as good. Finding Vanessa as an expansion of Tales is great. By itself, it's just fine. But it doesn't completely work either. The books, I feel, are the same deal. They expand the story, and while it's possible to enjoy them by themselves, it won't be nearly as good. Just a quick overview of the books, they're good. Vanessa just makes a glorified cameo in them, so my complaint still stands. We don't know much about her. Tony's character kind of falls apart after he tries to kill Jack. Honestly, I didn't really mind the twist. It's just that they try and make him intimidating and he's really not. The book feels different from the blog, which I know is obvious, but I didn't really mind the style change. Tom and Jack, their relationship gets fleshed out a lot, and it's legitimately kind of adorable to see them together. And it shows Jack actually being comfortable around someone. The book also showcases Jack's awkwardness, which has always sort of been a plot point, but it's never really been seen, I guess. But there are just points in, especially the second book, where I'm just like, wow, Jack, you're really bad at talking. O'Brien and Jack also have their relationship developed in Volume 2, and it's really sweet. It's also in the books that we meet the owners of the gas station,
And I honestly don't like them. Like, I get the point was to sort of make them assholes, but that's not really my problem. It's like, there's so much potential to be had with these people, but it's not really used at all, I think. They own the gas station where all this weird shit happens. They have a daughter that dated Jack. And it's like, never once do they ever mention Sabine or imply that they blame Jack at all. And most of their dialogue usually devolves into something like, we know something weird is going on, but we're not gonna tell you. Like, literally, that's all their dialogue.
By the way, you should be getting a visit soon from a girl named Rosa. She'll be coming on board tomorrow as our new full-time associate. You should make her feel comfortable.
Why?
What can I say? She turned in an impressive resume. Her mama liked the cutoff of Jed. Don't ruin this for us, she might be our only hope.
It's like, stop teasing me, you bitch! And then they just die. Like, that's it. They don't really do anything. And it turns out they're just normal humans, and they give Jack the gas station for some reason. I would say that they were the worst characters in Tales, but that honor goes to the FDA. Fuck these guys. Seriously. They're not funny. The way they're just written is awful. I don't even have a passage to read to prove it. They're all bad. Also, they killed Tony. Fuck them. If I had to compare volumes 1 and 2, I think Volume 1 is a bit better because it has a better structure and a more focused story. But that's because Volume 1 was framed around an arc. Volume 2 wasn't really framed around anything. It was mostly new content and elaborations on things mentioned in the blog posts. But they're both still great. I mean, the fact that it even exists at all is pretty amazing, honestly. I mean, let me put this into perspective, guys. 2 years ago, Jack Townsend wrote a story that he stated was mostly improvisation. And now look at it. Tales from the Gas Station has evolved so much that it even has its own dedicated following, merchandising, with 2 volumes of books available to purchase and 2 more on the way. I'm positive that Tales from the Gas Station has inspired a lot of people to pursue their passion, whether it be in writing, or art, or any other kind of ambition. It sure as hell inspired me. Thanks for watching, guys.